because we do have quite a few people who have requested to speak. And because this is a study session and no action will be taken, I really do want the board to be able to get to sort of the meat and potatoes of why we are here discussing these particular items. So I will respectfully ask that anyone who is going to speak from the public speak for 2 minutes today instead of 3, just so that we can get to the rest of our agenda. And again, we have a board meeting next Friday in Wickenburg. And that is also another appropriate place for individuals to come forward and speak with communications from citizens. So please, if you could, to all of those who are speaking, that they hold their comments to 2 minutes or less. Thanks. Any other comments from the board before we have Floyd read the Title VI Civil Rights Act? Okay, seeing none. Floyd, can you proceed?
Yes, Madam Chair. Pursuant to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Arizona State Transportation Board and ADOT do not discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, or disability. No person will be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefit of, or be otherwise subjected to discrimination under any Arizona State Transportation Board or ADOT program or activity. To assist in measuring the public's participation, we ask each individual to please complete an online self-identification survey, and the link to that survey is shown on the agenda. By completing this voluntary survey, ADOT will be able to determine who attends its public meetings and how the department can improve participation. The survey will also help ADOT fulfill federal reporting requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Floyd. All right, we will move to communications from citizens. The first individual has requested to speak first. That is Senator Wendy Rogers. Senator Rogers, the time is yours.
So Senator Rogers, please raise your hand so we can unmute your line.
And I'm not seeing her on the call list unless she is a call-in user. If you are a call-in user, please a reminder to press *3 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute your line. Otherwise, you can press the raise hand icon at the bottom of your desktop. But I'm not seeing her name on the list.
Yeah, I don't see her name on the list either, but like you said, there are half a dozen phone numbers, just the phone. So, Senator Rogers, if you're on the phone, please use *3 to raise your hand. Yeah, I don't see that happening, Ms. Daniels, Madam Chair.
Okay.
She's a 480 number, and I don't see.
Yeah, I'm looking at that request too. Okay. Moving on. Sorry about jumping back and forth. Mayor Stephen Otto from Payson.
So I did see him there, I think, so he should.
Mayor Otto, are you on the line?
I have requested to unmute your line. You are now unmuted.
All right, thank you. Just comments from Payson. We have construction going on currently. We are lobbying to have a second right-hand turn lane constructed from northbound 87 to eastbound 260 here in Payson. The current layout is with a single turn lane with a constant green arrow and a merge lane on 260. And what that's doing in our town is we have a traffic jam on the right-hand lane coming northbound, intermittent traffic on the inside lane, and we're having crashes when the gridlock lane tries to leave space for a car to get into a business, and the middle lane does not stop. We need a second turn lane that allows turning on green only, and have that
So I sent Sam the link again.
eliminate the backup
See if that
traffic
helps.
for the people going east on 260. That's our heaviest traffic. If you'd care to do a traffic survey, you could substantiate that fact. So while the construction is going on, and since there's ADOT projects in the works, we would just like that second right turn lane to be added to the mix.
Thank you, Mayor Otto. We will move to Councilmember Jim Ferris. And then on deck for your edification, Bryce, will be Charlie Bell, Councilmember Bell.
Okay, Jim Ferris, I have requested to unmute your line. You are now muted.
Mr.
All right,
Ferris?
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm on the town council here in Payson, and, you know, I could reiterate all the things that Mayor Otto said, but, you know, I do think that, you know, for, you know, fire evacuations too, if we ever had, you know, all this congestion, if there was a fire emergency or even other emergencies, it really it takes away the opportunity for people to move on these roads if an emergency existed. The other thing too, I believe that, you know, people get into this traffic jams that back up, and I think it hurts Payson economically. These people, they don't want to stop and try to get back out on the road. They just want to get through Payson and get away from us. And, you know, I think this, you know, is a disincentive for people to stop or even travel through Payson because of the known traffic congestion that it has. You know, and I do think that, you know, a synchronization of lights and stuff would really help the flow through Payson. I just appreciate your consideration in this here, and hopefully while this construction is going on, these improvements could be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ferris. Councilmember Bell, Charlie Bell. And then on deck will be Alexander Ritchie.
You are now muted.
Hello, this is Charlie Bell. Thank you. I want to thank you for your time. I just want to reiterate what Councilmember Ferris and Mayor Otto indicated. I've been coming up into Payson since 1986, and was always involved in the study program. I'm going on 11 years living here in Payson. It hits you in traffic. It's definitely a hindrance for the individuals in Payson. It is very hard for us to get around on the weekends. I'm finding out that after you use our back roads, you're relegated to using our back roads. People now, since there's more and more increase in traffic, are beginning to find those back roads. And they're starting to use those back roads, and so it's taking us a lot longer to get around. So I would support, now that you're up there, repaving and fixing up the roads and improving the sidewalks. I think this would be a good time for you all to look at the 87 north and then going east on the 260 to the traffic light, to putting in an extra lane just so people can turn into that 260 and then do a merge and make their way into Star Valley, up into Beauregard, Beaver, or wherever it is. So I just want to thank you for the time. Just remember, we're a small town. We're utilizing our platforms that are getting filled in, and we really need your assistance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Bell. Alex Ritchie. And on deck will be Judy Hansen.
Have requested to unmute your line.
There you go. I was clicking the wrong number. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Hi, Alex. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Alex Ritchie, attorney for St. Carlos Apache Tribe. Last night I did send the board, and I don't know if everybody got a copy of it, a letter from Chairman Rambler to Senator Rogers dated January 22nd. We didn't have time to do a letter to the board directly because we just found out about this meeting. And I'd like to quickly outline what's in that letter. Namely, the tribe is seeking $10.3 million in safety improvements along US Route 70 from milepost marker 255.47 to 300.58. Too many lives have been lost on this stretch of highway because it is simply poorly designed and dangerous as a result. From October 2012 through August 2024, there were about 800 calls just for San Carlos Apache Police Department response. Those involved 55 accidents, 549 accidents with injuries, and often these involve members of our tribe. The formula that ADOT uses seems to be biased for urban areas which have higher fatalities. One fatality on San Carlos equals, if you do it proportionally based on the tribe's enrollment, amounts to about 1,000 people. And so it's particularly hard when we can't get those funds to basic improvements like guardrails, double lines around blind curves, and that's the request basically in a nutshell. I've done my 2 minutes.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Judy Hanson, you're up with Pat Lockwood on deck.
I'm looking for Judy Hanson's name. Again, if you are a call-in user, please press *3 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute your line. I'm not seeing a Judy Hanson on the attendee list.
We have Deborah Grossman raising her hand. Oh, we have another one that's raising their hand now, Bryce.
The call-in user?
909. Yeah, 909.
All right. I have requested to unmute your line.
Judy, is this you?
So the 909 should be Judy Hanson.
Again, please press *6.
Yes,
You are
I'm
now
on.
unmuted.
How do I do that?
Judy, I think we can hear you.
Okay, hi.
Hi there.
My situation is I've been here in town, and since I've been here, I have unfortunately a lot of health issues. So I go down to the valley quite a bit to many specialists. I've actually had, in 4 years, 3 surgeries, traumatic brain injury. Anyway, so a lot of times I have to go down to the specialist on Friday, and I come back up, and I must wait just to get through where the reservation is sometimes up to half an hour on a Friday. Just to get through that lot. I'm backed up on that 87 for a long
What are you doing about that, Audra? What the hell?
And also,
30 minutes to get through a
when
light?
they fly into this summer, and I have to go
Paste it in
down to
260.
the airport, or they rent a car and come up, they have the same situation. We cannot get through town. So it seems to be a problem. Other thing I learned is that years ago, when there was only a one-way, they got came in, put it, widened up the street too, but when they did, they took out all the beautiful pine trees. And I think now that you're fixing things, maybe it's time for you to re-beautify our town and put our trees back. Thank you.
Chair Daniels, you are muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Judy. Pat Lockwood, you're up, and Deborah Grossman is on deck.
Unmuted.
Hi, my comments today are regarding the ongoing 260 conversation we seem to be having this morning. It's the Highway 260 corridor between Payson and east to Star Valley. Stop and imagine trying to pull out your vehicle onto Highway 260 with speeds of 70 miles per hour from oncoming traffic, not to mention the blind spots that exist on Highway 260 when turning into and out of side streets. Added to that, the town has approved a Juniper Pines development, which is approved for a self-storage and apartment complex, which will add to the turn lane fiasco. 8 lives have been lost so far this year on this stretch of highway. Captain White with the Arizona Department of Safety stated to lobby ADOT for more controls. My action? We need to lower the speed limit one more time to 45 from Mud Springs Road all the way to Star Valley. We need additional speed limit signs on Highway 260 at Tyler Parkway, east and west. We also need additional speed limit signs at mile marker 254, east and west. We should also consider adding 2 green rectangular ADOT signs, watch for elk, as posted east of Star Valley to Christopher Creek. Over 18 elk have been killed in this corridor, which causes accidents as well. The tragedy will be loss of life and limb if this safety issue continues to be ignored by ADOT. The addition of traffic, trailers, boats, and moving trucks turning into this Juniper Pines development will only exacerbate this current situation. And I know Steve Otto has the 30-page traffic study that exists. Does the town of Payson need to request ADOT to install a 3-way stoplight where this development is and extended turn lanes? Can ADOT add stoplights with a 3-way stoplight, or at least yellow caution lights flashing to alert those who are not familiar with the area of this dangerous intersection? The corridor of homeowners is the largest residential property tax paying base in Gila County. There's over 2,000 homes that use this entrance and exit off 260. Thank you for considering my concerns. I am asking state and county representatives to weigh in to push this forward, and I welcome more advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Deborah Grossman and Inga Chenard is on deck.
Good morning, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. I'm Deborah Grossman. I'm a local resident of Williams. I drive Highway 64 every day. I'm here to inform you that in certain sections of Highway 64, there are areas that are in need of repair to prevent further erosion and potholes. And the area across Kaibab Lake are significantly worse. Also, if you would please consider adding a few more precautionary wildlife crossing signs on Highway 64 to heighten driver awareness, especially at night, to slow down, to prevent serious collisions with wildlife. Like the other speaker mentioned, we have deer and elk every week being killed, and drivers losing their lives or seriously injured and changing their lives forever. Please consider my request, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Deborah. Inga is up next with Cynthia Stratton on deck.
I'm looking for, probably have a call on music, this might be them.
Should have a 928 number. Bryce, Inga would have a 928 number is what she showed. I see there's one on there that's 928 and ends in 58.
Yep, I have requested to unmute your line. If you could please press *6 to unmute as a call-in user. You are now muted.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, good morning. This is Inga Chenard, and I've been a resident and very involved in the town of Payson. I've lived here for 13 years. Even though we are known basically as mostly a retirement town, and a lot of the retirees do not get out on the weekends because of this traffic situation. So they have to do any of their banking or shopping prior to Friday. It is impossible to get around. Those of us who do have daytime jobs and are tied up during the weekdays and must get out to special events or whatever on the weekends, it is a treacherous situation. Very dangerous, especially because the right turn arrow on the single lane from 87 north to 260 east, that's a green arrow, one lane. Every other turn in that intersection has two lanes. So what happens is that the southbound 87 lane green arrow will merge into 260 and there's just a jam. The people are jammed up to the casino. Miles and miles and miles. I have heard people say they've been sitting there for 45 minutes. If there is an emergency vehicles cannot get through there. All three lanes are jammed because it bottlenecks into one turn lane. It would be so easy to fix this as that right-hand turn lane from 87 to 260 has an island, okay, with a light, and that's all that needs to be done. The space is there. All you have to do is remove that island and that light, move that light to have clear access for the people passing through town. I really hope that you will take all of these fights and please to heart. And really, we really need this. I know Senator Rogers has been up here. She has seen the problem. She's here a lot. And we have her support. So thank you so much for your time and the privilege of speaking. This is Inga signing off.
Thank you, Inga. Cynthia Stratton, you are up, and sorry, some of them came in a little later, so I want to make sure I get them. Brooke Myers, you're on deck.
Cynthia, if you are a call-in user, please, as a reminder, press star 3 to raise your hand. Not there you go. And then star 6 to unmute. I have requested to unmute your line. You are now muted.
Good morning, this is Cynthia Stratton. I have been a resident on and off of Basin for about 30 years, and I've watched the growth of the community. I've watched the increase in traffic, and it seems to me that since we're currently undergoing improvements that ADOT has approved on our State Route 87, now would be the fantastic opportunity for the Transportation Board to begin its study of adding a second right turn lane onto 260. As mentioned by previous speakers, excuse me, when the weekend comes, traffic backs up literally for miles through our town. And it can be disconcerting for a lot of people to navigate that. And the folks who are here to stay in Payson end up using back roads. By not having a second right turn lane, my concern arises from a lot of these out-of-town folks beginning to use our back roads to navigate their way through the town. And this puts added stress on our town to see to it that those roads are fixed in a timely fashion. And we do have a lot of complaints about the roads. Just to recap, I would be absolutely excited for the Transportation Board to move up and make a priority the study that Payson needs to add a second right turn lane from 87 onto 260. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, we appreciate that. Lloyd, this puts us into the ones that came in a little bit later. So Brooke Myers is up, and then Guy Pfister.
Madam Chair, there is a 48 number that has logged in now, and that might be Senator Rogers.
Okay, we'll come back to her. Let's go to Brooke.
Brooke, I have requested to unmute your line. As a reminder, if you are logging in on your desktop, please press the unmute button on the lower bottom of your screen. Otherwise, if you are a call-in user, please press star 6 to unmute. I'm not seeing her unmuted, but she is on the list. Brooke,
Can you,
unmute?
yeah, go ahead.
If you're able to unmute your line.
Star 3, Brooke, to unmute your line.
Brooke, again, you can click the unmute button at the bottom of your screen or star 6 to unmute your line. We might want to come back to her.
Okay.
And I
Let's
could
go to
also,
Guy.
if you are having issues, please feel free to reach out to me on the email and phone number that's provided that I sent earlier this morning, and I can help with any technical issues. Okay, and you said it was Guy?
Guy.
The next person? Okay. Guy, I have requested to unmute your line. You are now muted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Great. So, I've lived here for over 50 years, and it's a real simple visual for you. All you need to do is imagine an hourglass going through town between two highways. That's exactly what we have. Everything is being backed up for miles and miles, and it's causing frustration with drivers. There's a lot of anxiety when they're trying to get around people because nothing's moving. And it's just a dangerous situation and a great time to get in there and make it right and get the traffic moving through Payson both ways so we can, enjoy a little bit more safe scenario. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Guy. All right. Let's see if that 480 number, we're looking for Senator Rogers, if you're available.
I have requested to unmute the phone line. You are now muted.
This is Senator Rogers. We see a hand raised.
Yeah, they are unmuted.
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Transportation Board, thank you for convening this meeting. This is Senator Wendy Rogers of District 7. You have heard from some of my constituents regarding the need to add a right turn lane from State Route 87 northbound, turning east onto State Route 260. I submitted this as an appropriation request. The $600,000 study did get appropriated in last session's budget. The overall bill, however, is purportedly roughly $9 million. And so this puts a price tag to what my constituents have been speaking to. Payson absorbs a disproportionate share of the valley traffic on the weekend, and traffic oftentimes can be backed up for miles and miles northbound. That's my first project that I would like you to consider adding your heft and weight to ADOT on to fund this $9 million roughly expenditure. Secondly, sorry for getting on the phone a little late here. You should be hearing from a subject matter expert, I think already, Deborah Grossman from my Williams area of the district, requiring or demonstrating the requirements for upgrades and improvements to State Route 64 northbound to the Grand Canyon. We are a showcase for arguably the world with our Grand Canyon, and State Route 64 northbound into the South Rim is in need of repair, where there are depressions that could turn into potholes, and specifically striping on the highway to make it safer. Thirdly, my next project of the 5 that I input on my request to speak regards US 70. You're going to hear from Attorney General Alex Ritchie of the San Carlos Apache tribal community regarding US 70, which has borne its share, tragically, of many deaths near the San Carlos Apache community because of the state of disrepair of US 70. I put in for an appropriation for those repairs to be made this last session, and a sprinkling of that has been appropriated, but that is a ticket item of roughly $10 million on US 70. Item number 4 on my input is the need for a turn lane off of US 60 in Pinal County onto Superstition Mountain Road. And you are going to hear from Michael McCarty on that today as well. And then finally, let me look at my list here, and you're probably shaking your head like, Rogers, I mean, all you have is all these highway complaints. Well, these are the emails I get every day, Transportation Board. I represent 4 rural counties, Coconino, Navajo, Gila, and Pinal. And by far and away, these are the inputs that I get from my constituents now on almost a daily basis. And they say, Senator, our roads are in a state of disrepair. We don't...
Yeah, what are you guys doing about that? We didn't do anything.
Like you cut out momentarily. You still are needed.
Senator Rogers, we've lost you.
To tell the Transportation Board.
We lost
Okay,
you for a
sorry.
minute, Senator Rogers.
Okay. No
Apologies,
sweat. And
I do have to cut you off since we will have a 3-minute time limit for our, we do have another board meeting next Friday. This is a special study session. So we're happy to continue the dialogue with the residents next Friday.
Right, one last thing, the safety corridor.
It's our
on
260 safety
260
corridor.
that Mayor Otto has spoken to is the 5th item. So those are my 5 items that we will be coming to you and asking for your support, because this is important to us in rural Arizona.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we have one more individual that we weren't able to catch. I think it was Brooke.
Brooke, I
Brooke
have
Myers.
requested to unmute your line. If you are there, again, a reminder to please press the unmute button on the bottom of your
Yeah,
screen.
she's logged
on
into the
your
WebEx,
desktop.
but I don't know if she's also
Otherwise,
one of the
if you are
phone calls.
calling in, please press *6 to unmute your line.
All right. Bryce, if you could send Brooke a note and let her know about our meeting next Friday as well. Thank you. All right, that concludes our communications from citizens, call to audience, and we really appreciate everyone's comments today. And wanted to note Board Member Elters is joined as well. Thank you, Board Member Elters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry
That's okay.
for being late.
Technology can happen.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item 1, the planning to programming process, and ask Jason James to speak to the board. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Safe Transportation Board. My name is Jason James. I will be doing the presentation today on our PTP process. Next slide, please. All right, so with this presentation today, again, this is a conversation. So we definitely want to hear your input, your comments, your questions throughout this presentation. So We just really want to encourage that. And again, our ADOT mission, vision, and values on the right-hand side of the screen there. Next slide, please. So a little background on the P2P process, and these next 10 slides, and by the way, I'm going to go through them pretty quick. I'm not going to give you the dissertation version. It will be pretty quick, but I think it's good to understand the overall background on the P2P process with these next 10 slides. Next slide, please. So with the P2P, performance-based planning and programming is the law. The state statutes and federal regulation includes requirements for performance-based planning and for performance measures that ADOT has to follow in implementing a data-driven project prioritization process for our state highway system needs, which include but are not limited to system preservation, congestion relief, economic benefits, safety, and the cost effectiveness of a project or service. The Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century Act, which is MAP 21, mandated performance-based planning and programming process for federal surface transportation programs in 2012. In response to this requirement, ADOT developed the P2P process, with adoption by the State Transportation Board of this process occurring in 2014. The Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, which is the FAST Act, in 2015, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the bill in 2021, continue this requirement for state DOTs to implement a performance-based planning and programming process to prioritize state highway system needs. Next slide. All right, so the P2P process connects planning to programming. In the planning phase, ADOT abides by the goals established in the Long-Range Transportation Plan and the Strategic Plan, identifies performance trends for system, for the system, which includes our pavement, bridge, safety, and mobility assets in a variety of sources, including but not limited to the Transportation Asset Management Plan and the state's freight plan. And also, during this planning phase, we develop strategies and projects that meet these goals and improve performance trends. For example, projects that come out of the state trade plan and the Passing Lane Climate Lane study as an example. The federal performance framework requires that we use these plans to inform our programming decisions, and there are penalties for not doing so. And so once we go to the programming phase, ADOT allocates funding resources to the top-ranked projects in P2P, selects projects based upon review by the State Transportation Board as proposed by the programming leadership team, and tracks progress of projects through field reviews by our engineering districts and analysis by our technical groups. Next slide, please. All right, so our MAP 21 performance metrics are specific, measurable indicators used to monitor and evaluate the condition, performance, and risk of transportation assets, such as our bridges, our roads, our freight, and safety. And safety, by the way, will be discussed and addressed on the next slide. These metrics, as you can see here on the slide, help ADOT align investment decisions with long-term strategic goals, ensure assets are maintained to a state of good repair, and demonstrate accountability for the use of public funds. The federal metrics are in line with the state metrics, which feeds into our P2P process and are reflected in our Transportation Asset Management Plan. Next slide, please. All right, so with our safety metrics, while Arizona's population has increased 12% since 2013, our recent safety data reveals a concerning trend. Annual traffic fatalities have increased 55%, with pedestrian and bicycle fatalities having increased 90%. In an effort to reverse this trend, ADOT, in cooperation with local, state, federal, and other safety stakeholders, had completed the 2024 Strategic Highway Safety Plan, a data-driven, multi-year safety plan that establishes a statewide vision, goals, and strategies for improving safety. The plan is based on a US DOT safe system approach, which is shown in the graphic on the right-hand side of the slide, which looks at all factors affecting safety and emphasizes our shared responsibility for improving safety on roadways. The Strategic Highway Safety Plan vision is creating shared responsibility so everyone arrives safely home. The Strategic Highway Safety Plan goal is to reduce life-altering traffic crashes by 20% by 2030. Emphasis areas teams have been established out of this plan to implement the developed strategies for each respective emphasis area, which include human behavior, vulnerable road users, intersections, lane departure, and tribal lands. Next slide, please. All right, so this slide here, the Casa Grande resolves were a set of guiding principles that were adopted in 1999 to create a more equitable and regionally based process for allocating transportation funds throughout Arizona. The results resulted from concerns from rural communities that they were not receiving a fair share of state transportation revenue compared to the larger metropolitan areas of Maricopa and Pima counties. So as a result of these resolves, a new revenue allocation formula was established, as shown on the slide here on the screen. So 50% for Greater Arizona, which forms kind of more of the basis for our allocations for the P2P, 37% for Maricopa County, and 13% for Pima County. Again, as I mentioned before, the P2P process focuses on the Greater Arizona allocations. MAG and PAG develop and adopt their own programs to address state highway system needs within their regions. Next slide, please. All right, so this graphic you see on the screen here shows a timeline of the P2P scoring process and specific milestones. Again, I won't go through every single milestone, so I'll just highlight a few of them. For example, we added the disadvantaged communities criteria in 2022 at the directive of former board members Gary Knight and Jesse Thompson to improve the competitiveness of rural area projects. And also in 2022, we updated our safety scoring methodology in the P2P. And also in 2024, we updated our expansion technical scoring to be in line with our updated Arizona traffic demand model. Next slide, please. All right, so the recommended investment choice that you see on the screen here that comes out of our long-range transportation plan represents the overall investment choice for ADOT infrastructure across the state. The RIC, as we call it, is again, as I said, identified in the long-range transportation plan that's as adopted by the State Transportation Board. The RIC is defined by 3 investment categories: preservation, which includes our pavement and bridge assets; modernization; and expansion. The recommended investment choice is not meant to be rigid, but serves as a guideline for how future investment decisions should be made in each of the investment categories. The recommended investment choice informs our P2P process, but the board makes the ultimate decision on what gets programmed into the 5-year construction program, as you see on the right-hand side of this slide. Important to note, the reason you see differences between our RIC targets on the left and the program fiscal year 26 to 30 Greater Arizona RIC on the right-hand side is because, number one, we're still addressing legacy expansion projects going back to the 1990s, and number two, the addition of progressionally directed spending projects. Next slide, please. All right, so in this slide, the P2P process is not the only way projects get into the 5-year construction program. One pathway is competitive projects that are awarded by the board. The AZ SMART program is an example of this. Another pathway are the sub-program projects approved by the board. ADOT currently has 53 sub-programs that address different aspects of our transportation needs. And then finally, there are earmark projects, also known as the Congressionally Directed Spending Projects, CDS, which are special line item appropriations for specific projects. Next slide, please. All right, so there are a variety of external and internal stakeholders that give input into the P2P process. This input is critical because it enhances decision-making, increases transparency, reduces risk, and ensures that projects align with ADOT values and needs. Ways that stakeholders can participate in the P2P process include, but not limited to, coordinating with the engineering districts on state highway system project priorities, submitting new P2P projects at the call for new project nominations, which occurs every March, coordinating directly with the P2P manager, myself, and participating in the P2P workshops, which we'll discuss in the next slide. The key stakeholders that input into the P2P process include the State Transportation Board, state legislative elected officials, our 22 federally recognized Arizona tribes, our 4 Council of Governments, COGS, our 7 rural MPOs, our 2 transportation management areas, which are MAG and PAG, our 7 ADOT engineering districts, and 16 ADOT technical groups. It is important to note that our engineering districts act as an important point of contact between ADOT and local communities, gathering public input on road projects that feed into the P2P process. Additionally, the public has the opportunity to give input into the tentative 5-year construction program, which includes our highly ranked P2P projects during the public comment period that happens between February to May of every year. Next slide, please. All right, so with our P2P workshops, every September, we hold these P2P workshops for each of the 7 engineering district regions. The participants invited to these P2P workshops include, but not limited to, our State Transportation Board members, the districts, our COGS, MPOs, our tribes, our ADOT technical groups, our ADOT regional traffic safety group, and our ADOT policy group. Workshops provide the participants an opportunity to review the final rankings of projects within each investment category and to refine the projects. Refinement of projects can include combining overlapping projects or adjacent projects to improve efficiency of delivery, changing projects' priority due to local impacts or resources, or other
I will
considerations.
tell you, he's doing very good. He's hitting at a great pace.
Workshops, each district
And I know
administrator
we met with him and went through the slides and everything. He did well to prepare himself, and Jason he's doing
Any scoring
excellent.
changes at this time will override the preliminary district prioritization provided earlier in the P2P process. So before this concludes on the 10 slides on the background. The next slides after this are going to go more into each funding category and talking about the scoring. Before I go there, were there any questions or comments thus far?
Madam Chair, I have a quick question.
Please.
With regards to the safety scoring and the strategic highway safety plan, do you look at that plan when you're reviewing the safety scoring to make sure that they sync together with what the vision is for ADOT and the current how the current scoring is prioritized?
Gotcha. And I'll jump on that first, and definitely want to hear from our leaders, our executive leadership too, if there's any other additional comments. When we look at the scoring and the scoring criteria that we use, we do coordinate with our traffic safety group, who also are in charge of overseeing the strategic highway safety plan. So we coordinate as far as what methodologies are we using. Are they in line with current highway safety manual standards? And are they in line, as you mentioned, with the goals and vision that we have in our plan? So yes, we do coordinate on that, and I do coordinate with that group on an annual basis to ensure that we're always coinciding on that as we do our scoring of safety needs on the system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Madam Chair, Board Member Howard, this is Director Toth. I'd also like to emphasize the Highway Safety Improvement Program dollars that we receive from the Federal Highway Administration, any project that's associated with those have to fall within the emphasis areas of the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. So that does guide how we use the HSIP funding as well.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions or comments thus far before we get into the specific funding categories?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Bruce Bracker.
Please, Bruce.
So I was invited to the Southeast P2P workshop, but I received no other invitations for any other workshops around the state. I know they're pretty time consuming. Is it possible that ADOT could do a Cliff Notes version of those P2P workshops for board members so we can understand what projects are going on around the state rather than just in our districts?
And I will respond to that, Board Member Bracker. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, in the few, what we typically have done is that invite the State Transportation Board members for the specific areas where they represent for P2P workshops. But in the future, we will make sure to invite board members to all P2P workshops. So we will make sure to make that change in the future.
But can you do the summary?
I think he wants to know, so he's in the
Jason, Mr. Bracker also asked a kind of summary of some of the other workshops, and that might be in your final rankings as well, but could you make sure to share that with the board members so they have that?
All right. And any other comments or questions before we move on to the discussion on the funding categories? Okay, hearing none. Next slide, please. All right, so let's discuss the modernization category. Next slide. All right, so modernization are improvements that upgrade efficiency, functionality, and safety without adding capacity. The P2P process feeds into 3 subprograms that you see at the top of your screen. The 705 subprogram, which is our P2P modernization projects. The 707, which is our Protect program that addresses resiliency. And also 709, which is our carbon reduction program, subprogram. The other modernization subprograms that you see below have their own prioritization framework that's separate from the P2P process. The State Transportation Board approves all projects to come out of all these subprograms on a line item basis. Next slide, please. All right, so this slide shows the P2P scoring breakdown for the modernization category. There are 22 different work activities in this funding category, as you see on the right-hand side of the screen. 35% of the overall score is the technical score, which is based on the project's nominating technical group or a study document, for example, a corridor profile study. 30% of the overall score is the district score, which is derived from each ADOT district's prioritization of projects reflecting local assessments. 25% of the overall score is the safety score, based on the weighted level of safety service values computed using the P2P safety tool. And then 10% of the overall score is the policy score, which consists of the freight percentage, functional classification of the roadway, and the disadvantaged communities measure. Any questions or comments on this slide?
I have one quick question. Sorry, Jason. Couldn't unmute fast enough. We've come back a couple different times to the sources of data as being an important component of this, because those have such an impact on the actual percentage that each of these categories is going to be getting. And maybe we can cover this at some future, in a few minutes if you want to keep going in this, but I would love to understand the sources of data. It was a little bit frustrating, I think, for the board to have residents of Payson and other communities come forward with differing data than what we had, and so some sort of agreed upon. It does have such a tremendous impact on how these numbers sort of break down that I think it's worthy of discussion.
Got you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that. And yes, I can definitely send you a detailed kind of memorandum on the sources of data and describing that. And if any further questions after that memorandum is submitted to you and the board members, we'd definitely be happy to address them. But thank you for bringing up that comment, Madam Chair.
That would be great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this slide before we move on to talking about expansion? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to expansion. Let's talk about the expansion category. Next slide, please. So, expansion are improvements that add capacity by adding new facilities. When the expansion technical scoring was updated in 2024, our goal was to create performance measures that, number one, address ADOT long-range transportation plan and MAP 21 goals and strategies. The ADOT long-range transportation plan goals that expansion projects support include economic vitality, equitable access, and improving mobility, reliability, and accessibility. The MAP 21 goals that are addressed by our expansion technical scoring are safety, congestion reduction, system reliability, and freight and movement and economic vitality. The second thing we wanted to address was creating performance measures that reduce overlap or correlation. Number three, we wanted to utilize available data sources. Number four, we wanted to develop something that can be developed and maintained by ADOT staff. And number five, we want a process that does not require extensive analysis steps. Next slide, please. All right, so this slide shows the scoring breakdown for expansion based on the performance measures that we discussed in the previous slide. The P2P process focuses on greater Arizona expansion projects. So 50% of the overall score is the technical score, which is focused on system reliability to reduce congestion to support economic vitality. 25% of the overall score is the district score, which considers input from their local constituents. 15% of the overall score is the safety score, and then 10% of the overall score is the policy score. Any questions or comments on this slide?
Madam Chair, can you expand on the technical portion to 50%, what each one of those categories means?
Absolutely. So, with let me get here. Give me just a moment. I'm blowing up my own screen here so I can see here.
Sorry, I'm using.
Yep, not a problem. And I'm just getting up my screen here real quick. Give me just a moment, because I seem to have lost the screen here for a minute. All right, so, I got everything's back to normal here. All right, so with level of service, the first one, level of service, that is a rating of how well the transportation facility is operating. So it's used to assess traffic congestion and delay at intersections on roadways. The total delay, there we go, yeah, I'm seeing it now, is the difference between the travel time that's actually experienced and the reference travel time that would result during ideal conditions. So in the absence of traffic control, in the absence of geometric delay, in the absence of any incidents, and when there's no other vehicles on the road, kind of comparing that to actually what's happening out there in reality. The next one is system reliability for both passenger vehicles and freight, and that's a measure of the dependability in the travel time of a trip, or the time to travel a road segment. That's experienced in different hours of the day and days of the week for both passenger vehicles and freight, and really looking at peak times too, to where reliability is not so high. The next one is supporting economic vitality, and that's a location that's within a key commerce corridor. So key commerce corridors are road segments that connect major economic hubs of Arizona with their associated markets. So these are interstates, international, regional routes that promote the most economic activity and support the growth of quality jobs in the state. So that would be the Interstate 40, I-17, I-10, those would be examples there. And then finally, improving congestion. Congestion, that's comparing projected future change in the vehicle hours traveled along a route at a project level. So that's kind of, without getting too much into the weeds, which we could, that's a description of each of the measures within our technical scoring. Did that answer your question, sir?
It did, thank you.
All right, thank you for the question, appreciate that. Was there any other questions or comments for our expansion score?
The next we'll talk because he has his hand raised.
Yes, Madam Chair, this
Okay.
is Ted. I've got one question too. Couple things, and I know you've got more that you're going to break down in the other categories as well, but curious on this one, why the safety standard would drop to 15 on this. I think this is what's leading to a lot of the confusion, because modernization is one thing, but when you're addressing congestion issues, which generally also come with safety issues, there's almost always going to be some addition of facilities. So I was curious why that dropped 15%. Drop 10% to 15%, by having safety be the same measure throughout. And then the only other thing, what I see is kind of the thing that can throw these numbers out of whack. The district administrator evaluation, that's not the collective body of all the district administrators talking, it's just the district administrators organization for their specific projects. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah, I'll address that second question by Chair Maxwell. Yes, for the district's score, it's a district administrator for the projects that are within their own engineering district. So that's correct, yes.
Okay.
All right, and I will address your first question. Basically, why is safety scoring only 15% of the overall P2P expansion score? So with safety, I just really want to, before I address that, I just want to really emphasize that safety is a very important part of every project that we do. So, even if a project is an expansion project or pavement or bridge, when ADOT does construct those projects, we put that project to ADOT standards, national standards, and a lot of times we exceed those. By putting additional lighting, intelligent transportation system devices, striping. So, I really want to emphasize that. So, to your question, go ahead.
Jason, I totally agree. I'm just trying to figure out why safety is less important in an expansion project than a modernization project.
Oh, absolutely. No, Absolutely. So since expansion projects are fundamentally about adding capacity to improve congestion, travel reliability, and freight movement, expansion scoring places most weight on the mobility performance, which is that 50% technical score you see that's consistent with our MAP 21 base performance planning. Safety is included, as you mentioned, at 15% because ADOT is bringing up the roads to ADOT and industry standards. So with that said, that's the reason. It's because of the more emphasis on mobility performance. And this weighting structure, by the way, that ADOT uses is consistent with other comparable Western states, such as Utah, Colorado, Nevada, and Washington.
Thank you, appreciate it.
No, thank you for that question, appreciate that. All right. Was there any other additional input or comments on this slide before we move on to the next slide? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on then. We'll talk about the preservation category, which for pavement and for bridge. And preservation is activities that improve or sustain the condition of a roadway or bridge to a state of good repair. And we're already on the pavement scoring breakdown. As you see for our pavement preservation, 51% of the overall score is the technical score, which comes from the pavement management section. The pavement management section evaluates all roadways under ADOT ownership and recommends pavement projects based on the data-driven quantitative methodology. 40% of the overall score is the district score, and 9% of the overall score is the policy score, which consists of a scope project in the previous P2P cycle and disadvantaged communities measure. The scope project measure is specific to pavement projects in order to get projects off of the funding bubble and get them programmed sooner than later. Any questions or comments on this slide? All right, hearing none. Next slide, please. And then finally, this slide shows the bridge scoring breakdown. So 60% of the overall score is the technical score, which comes from the bridge group. The bridge group evaluates all the bridges under ADOT ownership and recommends bridge preservation projects that is based on a data-driven quantitative methodology. 30% of the overall score is the district score, and 10% of the overall score is the policy score, which consists of freight percentage, roadway functional classification, and disadvantaged communities. Any questions or comments on this slide? All right, hearing none,
Yes.
move on to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go back. On the technical and safety, how often does every ADOT bridge get inspected?
Gotcha. With our bridges, we typically inspect those bridges once every 2 to 3 years. And then and just to add to that, we do have requests where we for more vulnerable bridges that we look at every year. So it really depends on there, but typically every 2 to 3 years for our bridge inspections.
Chair Daniels, Board Member Bracker, it is every 2 years, required by Federal Highway Administration.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments on this slide? All right. Move on to the next slide, please. All right. So this concludes our discussion on the P2P process, and so I want to open it up to our board members for open discussion. Any additional questions, comments, or anything you want to discuss on this presentation?
Thank you, Jason, and thanks for being so thorough for us. Board members, any additional questions? So,
Madam Chair?
yeah.
So one of the things that I've seen as a county supervisor, and now I'm on the board and I'm just learning, it's very difficult. There's some roads in the system that don't serve major population areas, but they're still critical roads for the communities that they're in. They're state routes. Are all state routes considered to be in the federal system, or are they all considered only in the state system?
With our
the classification of our
for
state
anyone of
routes.
our leadership team, correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe that all our projects are eligible for federal funding. They're federally functional classified. So, I hopefully that's your question as far as being eligible for federal funding. I believe all our state routes are eligible for that. But again, anyone on our
State route, it's
leadership, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Just want to make
It's
sure I'm saying
locals
that correctly.
that may be different
Go
status.
ahead and unmute. Yeah.
Anyone?
Chair Daniels, Board Member Bracker, yeah, that's exactly right. All the roads within the state highway system are eligible for federal aid.
Thank you. So my next question is in the scoring
Not sure
system,
if that was his
it
question.
really puts the rural state routes at a huge disadvantage because they don't have the traffic flow, but these roads aren't critical to those communities. It's just like everywhere across the state, you have people, school systems using these systems and tourism using these systems, but the roads are not in good shape. And I understand that we're dealing with a funding issue in this, as I'm learning, a huge funding issue at ADOT. But how do you get priority to some of these roads? Because what was explained to us right now, I don't see much of an avenue other than the ADOT board saying, we think that this road is important enough and we're gonna allocate funding for it.
Gotcha. And, oh, go ahead if our leadership wants to comment first before I jump in.
Yeah, Chair Daniels, Board Member Bracker, it is a very difficult position. I just want to stress that the MAG and PAG regions are programmed separately by MAG and PAG. So when we're talking about the P2P process, we're talking about the outlying districts, the rural districts in general. So that they aren't competing, I would say, with the urban areas. I wasn't quite sure if that was your question or just the fact that it is difficult in terms of we can't touch every single road every single year or even, every 10 years. It's just, that's the nature of the system and the funding that we have available.
But Madam Chair,
When you do a pavement preservation project on a road, is it vary by district in the state, how long you estimate that pavement preservation will last? And the example I'll use is in Santa Cruz County, we use
weather
chip seal.
conditions,
We have
northern,
moderate climate,
make a difference.
and we figure that chip seal will last 7 years.
Gotcha. I'll jump in on that one. Yes, we do have a life cycle that's associated with each of our rehab, preservation, reconstruction projects. With any of our projects that we put down on the state highway system, we do have a maintenance schedule that we maintain with each of these roadways to try to maintain them to make them last to a particular life cycle. So we do that. And then just to go on what Director Toth was saying too with your previous question. It is a huge challenge as far as the funding for our rural needs. That was we've been very aware of that for many years. That was the reason why, by the way, we added the disadvantaged communities measure to our scoring system, was to make our rural area, area roadways a little bit more competitive. It's also something that we are trying to we addressed in our transportation asset management plan as far as ways to show a little more love to our lower volume roadways. So just want to put that out there too.
Thank you, Chair Daniels.
Of course. Any other questions from our board for Jason?
Madam Chair,
Please.
it's not so much, well, I guess it is a question. Those are all the things and some, that gave us the breakdowns. And again, some surprised me, the differences between safety, the fact that there's no safety under consideration preservation, because I'd argue that the deterioration of a road for various states throughout of our 4 categories, how we classify them, can make a huge difference on safety depending how bad it is. I think that's what we hear often from the public as well, as that the safety is grossly underrepresented in this process. What is the process to go through and change this? I understand that there's a reason they're all different in the different categories, but I think you can make an argument that they should also, the text can always be the same, that districts should be the same, but what is the process? And in your opinion, why is the importance of what I call a significant percentage is left to the district administrators when you're now at some point comparing things between districts?
Maybe I could tag on to that just for a second just to clarify. When was the last time there were adjustments made to this, and how was the process changed?
22.
And I know we're about to embark on quite a few listening tours, which I anticipate that will help inform, but let me just tag on to your question, Ted.
All right, so I'll jump on that first. Actually, I want to address, before I answer that question, Madam Chair, I want to address Vice Chair Maxwell, you mentioned as far as safety and our pavement and bridge projects. Actually, the safety scoring is inclusive in the technical scoring for pavement and for bridge. So they actually do include a safety factor in their analysis for scoring for those projects.
Did we lose Jason?
It does have safety in the technician, because you briefed that on bridges, if you briefed that on preservation, I'm sorry. but.
No, it's okay.
I think on the slide it just said technical, so. Okay.
Absolutely. So I just want to put that out there. Now, as far as any changes to the scoring criteria or the percentages, that is up to the board. That is a state transportation board decision on that. So just want to put that there. I think the last time we updated that was a while back. It was probably way before my time. But that is a board decision. And the executive
I would say it should be the
leadership,
board and the
anything
department
to add to that.
cooperating on that.
No,
But
sorry.
they don't have the technical
Good morning,
experience.
everyone. If I may, this is Iqbal Hussain here. So, Board Member Maxwell, the question you asked about why the modernization and the expansion safety score different, I just wanted to add what Jason already mentioned. Just wanted to communicate that the modernization project that actually has all the safety projects included there. As an example, it says all the traffic interchange under modernization. Then we have the roundabout, ramp, signal, then pedestrian crossing, all these projects all under modernization. That's one of the reasons why we have more safety score, meaning under modernization we have all the safety projects, if that helps.
I think it helps, Iqbal, but I think the confusion is if I'm a layman and I'm looking at your spreadsheets that have the percentages based on each of, how things are being scored. If you look at pavement preservation, there is no safety component outlined and given a percentage of weight. And I think what we're hearing is, hey, safety needs to be a weighted element within pavement preservation. And Ted, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, and correct me, but I want to make sure that when we're talking apples to apples, yes, I understand that safety may be a component in pavement preservation, but it isn't necessarily outlined or weighted for a safety improvement, if that preservation provides a safety improvement.
Chair Daniels, you're spot on with my thought. To me, that's why I asked, why aren't they all necessarily the same? I understand some technical, and yes, when we're doing expansion, there's inherently safety built into that, but why don't we still score it? And, if you're looking at a scoring issue and we're considering policy at 10% for one, safety at 25, 30 for the district, and 35 for second, I think you can make the argument those should be consistent across all four. Because it's still comparing project to project within those different categories. So the scoring, I think what we've definitely heard from the public is 15% on an expansion project. Why are you taking such little concern about safety when you're just making that decision? So I think either as an entity we can do a better job of explaining it, but anytime you have to explain why, well, it's actually in that technical slide. If you see on your slide, it doesn't mention safety anywhere. Mm-hmm. Nobody in public is going to buy that safety is even a consideration for pavement preservation. And
at least in the weighted priority component.
They're not technical as a body.
Yeah.
They're reacting
Jason, amongst your
to
peers
politics
in other states,
of the public opinion.
Is this considered a best practice? Meaning, are we advanced or are we maybe a little behind in what might be considered priority planning?
Gotcha. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that question. Actually, we are actually, in line with national performance measures when it comes to our performance-based planning.
So Kerry's raised his hand.
In line with like-size.
He's on there. I don't know if you want him to weigh in.
Like I said, when I compare our P2P process scoring criteria, I do look at Nevada, Colorado, those type of states. I don't compare ourselves to New York, California, Texas. That's they have a higher budget. So yes, we are in line with the way that we score. Again, obviously there's going to be some little differences depending on each state, but overall our scoring is consistent with what other like-size state DOTs or how they're scoring their preservation needs, expansion, and modernization.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, please.
If I might, Carrie Wilcoxon, I think wants to weigh in on the safety considerations and do some explanation as well. If we could unmute him, Bryce.
And I see you as well, Board Member Elters, you're on deck.
Thank you.
Bryce, maybe if you could move Kerry in as a panelist, he can then unmute himself.
Is Bryce still with us? Bryce, you're on mute.
Bryce, I'm feeling abandoned. Are you there?
Do you have the capability to do that, Floyd, as
No.
an admin?
No, ma'am, I don't. Sorry, unfortunately not. I need Bryce to.
Well, we can, we'll forego that and move on, Chair, and we'll see if we can't come back to Carrie.
Let's come back to Carrie. Maybe we can get Bryce to assist between now and then. Sam and then Bruce. I hope it's okay that we're informal here on this study session. Okay, thanks.
It's, Madam Chairman, it's perfectly fine with me.
Good.
Thank you. Just wanted to share a couple of thoughts listening to the discussion and, recognizing that there are many questions and very legit questions. I think we should keep in mind there are many facets to safety, and I would really suggest
what's that one? Hello, can you
right
hear
off
me?
the bat
And we're going to play
that
that.
lightly
Bryce.
on changing these
What the hell,
percentages
man?
without the
He's usually on top of those things.
scientific backup to do so, recognizing that many of these practices are aligned with federal guidelines that come with the legislative acts that Congress passes, and then with other states and the industry standards. Furthermore, for example, in modernization, we have 25% for safety. That's because modernization is modernizing an existing highway that may have been built, years ago at a lower standards or different standards. Expansion, on the other hand, builds highways at current standards at arguably a higher safety standards and degree. And I would say when it comes to system preservation, whether it be in pavement or bridge, the districts and the locals' input is really key because they know the system better than even the adjacent district. They're on it, they're dealing with it daily, frequently. Their input then is validated or collaborated with the technical discipline, whether it be in the pavement group or the bridge group that is looking at District A and then District B and comparing those pavement conditions. And safety clearly is a concern when you start having extensive cracking versus potholing versus, and those are all tracked as part of the evaluation by the locals. I think it really boils down to the challenge that we have, which is funding limitation. When this process is compiled and it produces a list of 90 projects that are ranked from 1 to 90, and then we have to draw the line at projects.
I think you froze, Sam. Uh-oh, we got an unstable connection here.
Carrie is a panelist.
We'll come back
now,
to
so
Sam.
we can-
He might have to log
I don't
back
know,
in.
did you want Carrie to land on safety?
Bruce?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairwoman.
Jen, I thought we were just agreed to be informal. Jen.
Okay, thanks, Jen. So when I'm looking at this first slide, the previous slide, you're at the pavement preservation slide, and I'm looking at the sorry, I forgot to take the phone out of my office. It doesn't, there's a little bit more detail in the PDP scoring breakdown on pavement preservation, but if I'm looking at the PDP scoring breakdown on expansion, I'm not seeing the level of detail that I need to see what are in each of these technical categories. What are the things that the district engineer is looking at? What are the things that, you know, make up safety? Those are really the things that, as a new board member, I need to educate myself on so that I understand when I'm receiving P2P recommendations from staff that they've addressed the questions that I might be asking, or I can articulate to constituents. These are the things that they're looking at. This is why this decision was made. Can you get us more detail in this?
Absolutely, and I'll address it. I saw that Kerry Hans was up too, so I know he can address the safety question. But as far as more detail, as far as where those technical where that technical scoring methodology comes from, and where the methodology comes from, because those factors, I can absolutely send that to you and the rest of the board members. It's actually, we updated our P2P manual this year, and we just got that done, so I can send that to you. That it actually goes into detail on where a lot of this information comes from. So I can definitely send that to you. And as far as the safety component of your question, I'll leave that to my colleague, Kerry Wilcoxon, to address that. Kerry, go ahead, sir.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Chairman and board members. Kerry Wilcoxon, I'm the state traffic engineer. I work with Jason, and he and I spoke about this very question last week or earlier this week. But I did want to just mention, first of all, it may be more of a, the discussion we're having may be more of a, please don't take this the wrong way, but it may be more of a question about marketing what it is that we're talking about, rather than dwelling on a specific name for how we prioritize things. When we look at projects, whether it's in my group or through any of the design groups or the construction group, every project that we build is a safety project. And we don't say that lightly. What we mean by that is every time we touch a road, we make it better. Whether we are just adding new pavement, whether we're removing cracks and seals and things like that, every project touch is a safety project. There are some projects that will have higher or worse safety performance than others, and those are typically things that are found in the modernization program. But there are also projects that we may not be fully aware of the safety components because we're not from those areas. So we do rely on local input on a lot of these projects. But when we talk about the safety scoring, everything that we do is a safety project. Some different classes of projects have different weights of the actual safety performance, but every project that we do is safety. And I want to make sure that we're aware of that nuance when we talk about it. We don't ignore safety on anything. And in fact, we are constantly bringing every project that we develop up to the latest safety standards, up to the latest design and construction standards, whether they have a demonstrated history of safety problems or not. We're constantly upgrading our roads to make them safer. Does that
Gary,
help?
I don't think any board member would disagree with that and appreciates definitely that lens. I think all we're pointing out is that in the scoring process, safety is outlined and weighted in some processes versus others. And so we're just sort of trying to grapple around, like, why is it spelled out in modernization? Why is it spelled out but not spelled out in preservation? And so that's the only thing we're trying to grapple with is the process, not necessarily whether projects are or aren't safety related. I would 100% agree with your assessment that we're not going to make any improvement that's going to decline, with any intention of declining safety in one area or another. Everything has a safety element. So, Ted?
And Madam Chair, if I could pitch on, absolutely, Kerry, this is not a question of whether anybody's questions anybody's integrity or what goals. I think our number one goal as a board is the safety of the folks using our system. There's no doubt about that. I have zero doubt that every time you improve a road, you're making it inherently safer. What we're dealing with, because while I agree with Sam completely, we don't want to rush to change things, we don't want to do other things. And yes, it's a funding project. The funding solution is going to take a lot longer than us being able to fix or improve how we do these selections and then can inform the public. Because the public's outreach, what they see us every month, is we get a whole list of P2P projects. The P2P process makes more changes on the 5-year plans than we do in reality, other than the approval of our contracts. It is a critical cog in what actually gets done. And when you have areas like the district ones, I fully agree, the people who have these projects in their districts know better how much it's going to help compared to the other projects in their area. But there's got to be some way of looking at it overall when you have a category like district input, which has very little definition to what that district input is. The public is going to question it. And we have to be, as a board, responsible not only to the public and their requests, but we have to be able to justify the decisions we make to them, and more importantly, the decisions that the ADOT and that as a community we make. So we're just trying to get to a point of how can we explain to them so that they understand better, instead of, I mean, it's terrible when you're sitting there having two people try to compare their percentage of traffic versus the number of deaths on their roads. That's terrible. So we're just trying to even fine-tune both the marketing, as you said, the marketing, but our marketing is explaining why this process works. Safety is absolutely goal number one in here. You guys are all professionals. No question about that.
I said, someone in the executive team room has a comment, and I love being able to see Floyd from multiple angles on the WebEx. That's helpful.
Chair Daniels, member of the board, I think that what we're wrapping around is in the preservation category. On the bridge, it does say technical and safety, and I apologize that it doesn't say the same thing under the pavement preservation component. What we can do is separate the safety out versus combining it into the technical score. So that is something we can come back to the board with, most definitely.
Pulling back, like maybe pulling out a little bit on this topic, and again, I look to the board. I would love for us to, if this hasn't been updated in quite some time, and there have been both MPOs, COGS, and the general public who have pointed out what they consider to be flaws in this process. Can we ask staff to take a good, the last thing you want and need is the board saying, this is what the percentage should be for each of these categories, and I don't think any board member wants to do that. I think what we want to do is look to ADOT staff and the professionals to say, can we re-examine if this is a best practice across the country? What type of processes are other states using in order to prioritize projects? And what adjustments need to be made to update and modernize the language and approach that we're using in order to ensure that ADOT's goals are accurately reflected in these charts and in the process.
Jen, I would also add to that is how do we put that out to the general public and to these COGS so that they understand what we're looking at?
Mm-hmm. And they probably, the COGS and MPOs understand it probably way better than this board does, but so we'll be the bridge between the general public
We'll meet with them
and
constantly, so.
the industry professionals, but and again, we don't make any decisions in this, but I'm looking to the board for, you know, and if we need to agendize this for a future meeting, I think we probably could, but I don't want us to start going down the rabbit hole of percentage assignments.
Go ahead. Madam Chair, members of the board, we'd be happy to take a look across the board at other states. We can do a fast track research project, synthesis, and comparison, as well as bring that recommendations back to the board. This will take us a little time in order to accomplish that, but we will definitely bring it back before the next programming cycle.
Yeah, and maybe it's a, you know, Q1 2026 goal timeline or Q2 or, you know, understanding that these types of efforts, to do them properly do take quite a bit of time. Dump that on Ted's plate for his future chairmanship. Okay, as a board, are we ready to move forward to item 2? Great, let's do it. Item 2, Brett.
Good morning still, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Brett Anderson. I am the Project Resource Office and the Local Public Agencies Section Manager. I'm here at the request of your board to talk a little bit about what the administration of ADOT projects and self-administration and certification acceptance. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Here's a layout of the ADOT administrative process. Okay, I'm going to preface this with one little thing that I got going on here. There may be some acronyms that you see in here that you may not have seen before. Please stop and ask me. When you can speak a whole sentence in acronyms and then everybody understands it, then we know we're on page. But I know there's some things you might not capture in some of these acronyms. So ADOT administration. So we have some, this is their process. This means ADOT pretty much does everything. The local submits their project, they come up and they pay for the matching component, the matching piece. ADOT goes through their process, the planning and programming piece. We go to the next slide, it goes a little bit more deeper into that. Thank you. So the planning and programming, along the side there are some MPD. You see many things at your board meetings on a monthly basis. You see the planning and programming piece when they're making changes. Iqbal and Matt are making changes to the 5-year program. Finance, Christine gives you the finance update. The JPA, those are the legal side joint project agreements. And then PMG, those are the individual projects. We're looking specifically to advertise a project and to go to construction. We need to have that environmental certification, the right-of-way certification, and the utility certification. We cannot advertise a project unless we have those 3 components, and that's all part of our project management group. Then, of course, our construction, and those guys are at the districts, and that means they are the ones that are administering and going over and looking at things. And then, of course, at the end, when the project closes out, we come full circle when we do our finance and districts close out a project. That may take some time, but that's pretty much the overview of the ADOT administered projects, and ADOT pretty much does everything on that whole piece. Go ahead and go to the next slide. There's a couple of links to talk about what our joint JPA section, what they do, the stewardship and oversight agreement, which we'll make reference to several times in this presentation, and then also our contract administration. So that, in a nutshell, right there is the ADOT administered piece of the projects. Now, I think the next couple slides is what really you guys want to talk about, and I have some more details with that. All right, so here we talk about the self-administration. Now, we've done, this is this process to going through a self-administration and get everything ready to go. We do this on a project-by-project basis. So go ahead and go to the next slide that it dives into a little more details. That's the overview. Here's the self-administration. We've been doing this for a while. I have a memo back from 2012, September 2012, when FHWA did an audit on a bunch of HSIP projects, transportation alternative projects, and some CMAQ type projects. And there was a review, and there were some things that went down, and we decided to take and just do self-administration on a project-by-project basis. So right now, the way that it goes, that local public agency applies for self-administration. There's about a 13-page document that you can request from our webpage. You have to send a request to me, that I will gladly email that to the local government and let them go through that process. The LPA can select a consultant for the design, and they can do the design work. Design plans must be done to federal aid standards. That is a requirement, and ADOT will review those. But then at the end, ADOT still administers, again, those certifications, the environmental, the right-of-way, and the utilities. And we will go through the contracts and specs component to advertise the project as federal aid is involved. And one of the biggest things that we're finding with the self-administration is the fact that there's some, they don't quite have all of the nuts and bolts, if you will, to do federal aid program. They don't have all the stuff that they have. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Here's the time frame. A lot of folks think that it will shorten the time frame because they can do self-administered, and they may have that. Some are very good. Don't get me wrong. Some are very good at being able to do things, but others not so much. And it does take quite a bit of time to develop a project. We've gone through a project mapping process here, and it takes about 18 to 24 months once a project is in the 5-year program, or it takes about that time to develop it and to get it ready to go for construction. It could take longer depending upon where the project is located, or if there's environmental concerns. Those are just things that we have to grapple with along the process way. In order to become self-administered, it does take about 3 months to get that process. They would submit an application, and then it takes about 3 months for our team to go through, look at it, make sure that they have the nuts and bolts, cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure everything comes together, and then they get an award to do self-administration. Right now, we've done one for Metro Plan. They requested to self-administer a a TA project, and they were able to get things in. And I know you can go back to that slide 5 that has the timeline there. It says LPA application with fee due by July 30th. Now our team has talked about that, and we're like, hey, we can take things in whenever we need to. We're not going to say, you've only got one time a year to apply for this. We will take a look at things as they come in. And that fee is about $10,000 for our team to look at everything and to go through and to get that process all taken care of. All right, thanks, Chuck. Go back to slide 7, I believe it was. Yeah, the time frame. One of the things that does take a lot of time in this self-administration is going through the process. Again, making sure that it is in a TIP. We can't use any federal dollar or get reimbursed for federal funds if it is not in an approved TIP or as the State Transportation Improvement Program. So that is a critical piece. We don't want to get started on a project until it is in the TIP. And then once that TIP is in the program, now we can start to look at developing an intergovernmental agreement. That's the IGA. And then the TRAX number, that's an ADOT number that is generated to keep track of the system, the project in the system. And then anything's eligible for funding, and we can get that stuff going. That does take some time. And the local public agencies should allow about 6 months to get through that IGA process, because by the time it goes through their legal shop, our legal shop, it does take about 6 months. And they are a little understaffed at the moment, but they are working as quickly as they possibly can to get those agreements going on and in place. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Jen, can I ask a question here?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure, thank you. So when you're saying if an entity, a city or county or a town finds, gets an allocation from the federal government through their a direct allocation from a senator or congressperson, a member of Congress, that can't proceed until it's adopted into the ADOT 5-year plan? Is that what, to the S-TIP or the TIP?
Yeah, Chair Daniels, Board Member Bracker. So you talking about congressionally directed spending, and if that is, again, it's federally funds, they're coming from the senator or from the US DOT. It goes, that one of the first steps when they get that notification that they were awarded federal funds, one of the first steps is that they get it into the TIP so that can be, they can get it eligible. Even though they are direct recipients, this still, as it is federal funds, it comes through the US DOT, through the state DOT, to the locals, and that is, that's part of the requirements of using federal funds, that it be in a STIP.
So the TIP is how do you get to, the TIP is, it's the state document, it's not a local document.
The TIP, so Chair Daniels, Board Member Bracker, the TIP is this Transportation Improvement Program that is, rolls into the local TIP. It's basically like their work program, or excuse me, their capital improvement program for the local area. Those TIPs in those local areas then roll up into the STIP. It's the State Transportation Improvement Program. So the TIP rolls to the STIP, and then the STIP is where things generate from how the federal funds are spent with the with ADOT.
What's the time frame for a TIP to roll into a STIP?
It can be administrative changes, 30 days, whatever the timeline is. If they have there's projects. We can get into STIP and TIP. I used to do that stuff for a very long time. So if you want to talk a lot of details on that, we can spend a long time on that. It depends on, typically 30 days is the typical turnaround time. By the time the local gets through their boards, it goes to, sometimes if it's, the STIP gets amended every month at your transportation board meeting. So as those things happen, and then FHWA approves them, they're done on a monthly basis.
Okay, thanks. That's the answer I need to hear.
Yep, you bet. It's all right. Moving on. So one of the things that I was browsing through our LPA manual. A lot of folks think that, hey, by doing this, by being self-administered, I can do these projects a lot quicker, and I can move these things along. That is not necessarily the case. Sometimes they take a little bit longer, and then also too, they think they're going to save a little bit of money. One of the challenges that we're running into is that as the local, again, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the state will pay for the project to be complete, and then we get reimbursed. So the state pays for everything up front. Then we submit for the funding to be reimbursed from FHWA. I don't know that everybody understands that, but the local then they would have to have the ability to pay for the whole project up front and then submit for reimbursement. So that's one of the challenges. I'm just trying to dismantle or just have everybody understand that this is it is a process that takes a very long time, and you got to have the T's crossed, I's dotted, make sure everything kind of comes into play in order to do that. A couple of things that you might want to consider if you're to do that self-administration. Can the LPA staff members with appropriate technical registration, who is able to sign seal final versions of documents in accordance with the ARS 32-125, I haven't looked that one up yet, or have acceptable consultant selection procedures in place to ensure selection of a qualified registered consultant. They want to make sure that past experience and understand requirements of the Federal Aid Highway Program, making sure that they also have sufficient financial resources to complete the project activities they're applying and administer before receiving federal reimbursement, as well as sufficient resources to pay ADOT project review fee as well. And then there is a review step that goes through with this, a lot of details that go in with that, but I just wanted to be clear that sometimes applying for and doing SA is not in the best interest of the project for the local. The local may think so, but it may not be in the best interest. Go ahead, next slide. Yeah, there's a couple of resources to check things out. There's an SA application. That link is there. If that piece doesn't work, if you're not in Google, please give me send me an email, and I will make sure that you have, I'll get you a PDF version, make sure that all comes together. All right, I will be paused there for a little bit. If there's any questions about self-administration, I know that was probably one of the big questions that you had at one of your previous board meetings.
Yeah, and I think it was more about how someone becomes self-certified, or an agency jurisdiction becomes self-certified, and sort of what the positives and negatives associated with that were, and I think you covered that. Are there any additional questions from the board? Oh, I see Bruce's hand.
Sorry, I forgot to take my hand down.
Oh, all good. Anyone else? Sam's back, I think. Sam, you back in the meeting? Bryce, can you move Sam back to being a...
Of course. Can you come right now?
Alex.
All All right, if there are no questions, I will jump into the next step, next phase, if you will, is the certification acceptance. Now, this is something that we have 8 CA agencies in our area. Chandler, Mesa, Maricopa County, DOT, Pima County, and then Phoenix, Tempe, Tucson, and Yuma is the newest one. They are on probation right now. They have to do a couple of projects before they become fully certification acceptance. Go ahead and go to the next slide, and that will give you the overview of what it is that they can do and what they are permitted to do and what they are permitted to not do. We review these on a regular basis. They get oversight and monitoring. We will randomly go out and check the construction projects. I have a team that goes out and makes sure that they have everything done. There's an oversight and monitoring that goes on to make sure that they have everything in order so that we don't get in trouble with the FHWA. What this means now is that they have the ability to do their own projects, and they can do their construction projects, they do their procurement projects for materials and install, and then they can do contractor install, they can do their own installs. Some of them right now, there's full certification design authority, that's Chandler, Mesa, Pima County, and Tucson. They have the ability to do their design and architectural and engineering. So those folks are doing a great job with that. Chandler's one of our best customers. Mesa, Pima County, they're all doing very, very well. Tempe, Phoenix, some of the things that they're working on, they have some challenges and some things that they need to work through. And of course, and then Maricopa County has done a great job. One of the things that we are seeing in this group, there's a lot of turnover. They get the subject matter experts, they get the expertise, and then those folks move on to other jobs, and then that expertise is out the door. And so it's a very challenging piece to keep things up to speed, creating some standard work for those folks, and giving them the training. We do a training session, well, at least quarterly with our certification acceptance, so we get some things updated as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This will be my last slide. So here's the CA material that you can go in through and get that information as well. There's checklists that they need to go through and check out. Our next CA Academy will start in July of 2027. That's when we will be starting to start the process to look at more certification acceptance LPAs that want to come on and be a CA. It is quite the process. We just finished up. In 2025, they did the whole recertification process, and everybody passed. They were all moving forward. There was a couple of challenges with one of our CAs, and we had to decertify them. But at the end of the day, everybody's doing well, and we would love to see everybody be a CA, because then they can take and run with the money and go.
Yeah, we would actually.
Keeps us hopping in our shop, and we love it. And
you're not off the
that's
hook.
all I have, and we are more than
Even if they're out there messing feds are going to look to us anytime they
listen to
screw
any
up.
changes or things that you might have.
Hey, any questions from the board?
Did you
Yeah.
have a question?
Please.
So when we talk about money that's coming from a state legislature or money that's coming from the federal government and local counties or the local entities, whether they be the county, the city, or the town, have done their work and they've gotten this funding. After this funding arrives, it takes ADOT between 2 to 5 years to make these projects come to life. But from an engineering standpoint, that might be absolutely acceptable. From a political standpoint, it's pretty unacceptable. We're dealing, local elected officials are dealing with constituents. They're making commitments to them that they're working on their issues. And then they find the funding and they're saying, see, look, we found the funding. And then 2 years later, you're breaking ground on it. Or even 5 or 6 years later. Is there any way that any of this stuff can get speeded up? Or can you explain to us what ADOT is doing in the background with these projects that is that's taking 2 and 5 years?
Well, I'll take a shot at it. Board Member Daniels, Member Backer, a couple of the challenges that run into it. Again, we talked about the certification or the right-of-way, the environmental, and utilities. Again, that's great that the local gets the funding, but if there isn't any scoping document or anything done, we would get that project in. I say we, our project management group. And we really don't know exactly what it is they're trying to do. And so now we have to do some investigating and do some chasing around to find out what is it that you really want. And again, to the point that you're saying, yeah, the funding is great to come in, but if there hasn't been any plans put together or any kind of a scoping document that identifies what needs to be done, and then again, we go through the process. Sometimes it takes a little bit, that environmental work needs to be done. We need to make sure that we're doing that as well. Sometimes if there's right-of-way issues, we have to go through that process and then get that right-of-way. And again, utilities. Some of those things do take some time and put that together. That's where I believe a lot of the challenges run into. Again, some of the things that would work out is if there is some coordination with the local and the DOT, allowing them to work together with us, so we could probably help streamline some things. And then somebody else may have something to answer as well.
Yeah, Chair Daniels, Board Member Bracker, that's what Brett said is very true. The sooner a local agency can coordinate with us so that we understand scope, schedule, budget. A lot of times we run into the fact that they scope a project, but the budget isn't what it needs to be. Let's say it's a $20 million project, but they only got $10 million. And so we need to work with them to really define them. What can they accomplish for that $10 million? So there's a lot that goes into it, and we always encourage local jurisdictions to coordinate with us if they are going to be applying for congressionally delegated spending in order to help facilitate that process.
Any other questions for Brett? All right. Yeah, please.
Director Todd, thank you very much, and Brett, thank you very much for your explanations.
Okay, Brett, any parting last words? Thank you for your help.
No, I'll give you some, so since I used to be the second P of the P2P process, and I really loved the fact that we had some process to go through, and I could say, hey, where's the list, go down that list, draw a line in the sand, there's all the money that we have, draw a line right there and say, there's where I go. So I do appreciate that process that goes through. And it's Jason and I have made multiple presentations from when you talk about P2P, so planning to the programming. I know I have some of my other cohorts on here that do the planning or the programming piece, and I know they're very appreciative of that process.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that feedback. Okay, moving on to agenda item 3, the State Transportation Board policies. I also recognize it's 11:01, and so we want to go as fast as humanly possible and still be thorough. So Floyd, do you want to guide us?
Unmuted. Yes, Madam Chair. So I had to, I'm like you, we're 2 hours into this, so I had two thoughts. We could quick run through page by page and try to hit the highlights on each page, or because what you all received was an edited version that has incorporated comments that the chair, Daniel, sent in, Director Toth sent in, Board Member Bracker sent in, with the exception of the one comment I haven't addressed yet, and that's the dark sky coordination issue, and a few other comments that other staff had presented. So what you all have is a copy that has track changes. So we can either try to run through page by page, or in the interest of time, could you finish your review, get me edits by, let's say, Monday, and then what I'll do is I'll bring a new updated version again to the Friday's board meeting, and then we can try to address any issues there. Because the other thing I have not had a chance yet to finish is Chair Daniels and Director Toth both asked some comments as you were reviewing and said, do we need this? Should we address this different type thing? I have not had a chance to work with staff to address any of those yet. So those are still
Just
kind of
confirming
outlining.
Floyd on timeline for the actual adoption, it's February, right?
Well, they tried to adopt it by December of each odd year, but I think it's better to get it right. So my thoughts are, if we can get this review done, I can get an updated version in November. We can have a discussion at the November's meeting, then we can finalize it, and I hopefully bring it to the December's meeting for approval, if not, maybe January.
Is this agendized for next week's board meeting, as far as like an open discussion by the board for the policies?
That was my plan, is to put it in there again as a discussion item, yes.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. I'm okay with that. Maybe if, Bruce, if you wanted to go over any high-level changes you made, I don't want to go page by page. I think it'll take too long, so.
Right.
Is there anything you wanted to sort of point out, Bruce?
There is actually on page 3, Lloyd, we're talking about 1A is connect regions and population centers by an effective network of highways to carry travelers and commerce throughout the state. When this was written, is the thought population centers
Yeah, keep going. So good.
to some Flagstaff, Yuma, or is the thought population centers in each individual county?
Because the page numbers are not correct, there's a number of formatting issues we have to do, and that I haven't done it. When you see page 3, could you just tell me what policy number you're talking about?
5, state highway system.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah, on policy number 5. Okay.
So we have a definition question on population centers?
That's, yes. Is it a statewide population center, or is it more of a county population center?
I think it emphasizes statewide, yeah, that would be my vision. And in any place where we've got a population congregated, we try to generalize it as a population of people. That's why it doesn't specifically say city, county, town, or something like that. Just, is there population?
Bruce, what do you want it to say?
Well, when you're talking about rural counties, when you read something like that, it really
Feels
focuses.
discriminatory? Yeah.
Thank you. God, you place things so nice.
I said the wrong thing too many times, so now I have to learn the right thing. Okay, so
Madam
if
Chair?
that's, yes,
Or how do we be more inclusive to rural?
yeah. Okay, we'll leave that. Can you add that as a comment? Maybe that staff can resolve
Yeah.
in the editing?
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we'll look at that. I mean, we do talk regional, but I think there is a way to again, bring that as generalizing without trying to call out specifics. But again, because of the rural component of that, we can do that.
I read it as because so many of our transportation and multimodal systems are regional in nature rather than just, you know, yes, we're connecting population centers, but we also have the regional element that exists. I kind of read it as all encompassing, but I'm happy to entertain any adjustments. Sam, Bruce, did you have anything else you wanted to point out? Bruce, you're good?
Oops. I'm good.
Sorry.
And,
Okay.
and the dark sky question is a really important one to me.
No, coming up, okay.
Yes, sir, that's one we're
Make sure
still,
we talk about that next Friday. Sam?
yes, ma'am, that's one we'll be working on.
I just wanted to weigh in really quick on the state highway population centers. Like you, I see it as all-encompassing. For years, we referred to the Phoenix metro area and the Las Vegas metro area as the population centers without an interstate connecting them, and that's where US 93 fit in. Population centers could be also communities within the state, as well as even on the county level. When we talk about county highways, we talk about population centers within the county being connected by a county highway. So I think that the definition, at least for me, is prudent. It's broad enough, flexible enough that it's all encompassing. Just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Any other questions from the board? I have a couple that I'd just like to highlight for all of us. Okay, one of the things that I updated in my reply back to the group was there was a section on pedestrian and bicyclist safety, and because we have so many additional modernized forms of transportation, I wanted to broaden that. So I did make quite a few changes to that, and I would like to just point that out to the board. Because sometimes when you get the updated version, you can't tell what the previous version said, and I just want to call it out, like if I've made anything substantial. One of the other components that I felt like I'd love some additional eyes on is the aviation component, and I was hoping we could sort of task Ted, to be voluntold to give a really great look at that one so that there's clarity around, and again, modernization. And then one of the other sections, there was a whole section that talked about the Canamex Coalition. There's a lot of coalitions across the state now. Canamex, as far as I could tell in my research, isn't an actual coalition or an organized coalition anymore. It looked like as of 2005, they actually aren't sort of an organized coalition. It doesn't mean that the intent doesn't stay as far as connecting our southern neighbors to our northern neighbors, but I just wanted to point out that some additional modernization of that language, and recognizing other stakeholder groups that exist throughout the state to advocate for obviously the board wants to cooperate and work with such organizations. So those are some of the main things, although there are, I think, quite a few additional changes that I saw that needed to be made just in order to modernize it. Yeah.
Bruce, I also pointed out to Floyd the Canamex phrasing, and whether it was still prudent to keep it in there. Unfortunately, back when that whole concept became important, the states signed agreements under Canamex. So I'm not sure if we get rid of Canamex, but it's now it's called I-11 and a couple other names. So, but to update that would be, I think it's really important.
Yeah, just so that there's clarity moving forward. And again, if it's a board policy, that's something we're holding ourselves as a board accountable to, and I want to make sure we can actually execute on it rather than thinking of it as perfunctory.
Yeah, well, Madam Chair and
Ted?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mr. Maxwell.
I'll probably take on that aviation piece also. So the other thing that I'll just throw out for people to think about is I've already taken a new hack at the new recommended vision, make it even smaller. Vision that looks like to me like a vision that had grown over time and become all encompassing to capture everything. So I've already eliminated a lot of the alternative, but I'm going to work on it again too. One thing that we don't have in there is a mission statement. I don't know if there's some, we want to have it in there, because to me the vision is one thing. It's kind of the objective goal. What you want to see is it's the elevator line that you can give anybody what our vision is, and then the mission is what we actually need to do. I don't know if that's defined in statutes.
I was going to say, I think it is defined in statute what our mission is, at least what we have the authority to do, but if we want to spell that out, I don't, and clarify it, I don't have a problem with that.
I think it may be something we want to add there, but again, I appreciate having some extra time to do it. I'll definitely take a look at the aviation piece.
So, Madam Chair and board members, the mission piece, I think a lot of that is covered in the background. We can expand on that and look at that a little bit. I truly think that we can even call that out. I really like the comment about vision. The board chair gave us an alternative vision statement as well. You'll see that when you look at this. If other board members want to look at it, I think streamlining that is great. And Madam Chair, you already started that. So if other board members can bring that, that'd be perfect.
And Madam Chair, what I'll tell you I did already is I went from where it starts by leveraging and just struck everything up to strengthening Arizona's connectivity for generations to come. Again, to me, visionaries is just that. And I thought that just went into too much detail in case those other things change over time. So
in almost every area of my life, less words is better. So
agreed.
This one included. All right, anything else that the board would like to highlight or touch on before we close out our meeting today? Okay, thanks for the time and thanks for all the preparation by ADOT staff. We really appreciate you, and we'll see everyone next Friday in Wickenburg.
Have a safe day, be safe.
Thanks all, meeting adjourned.